But let's get into some sports, y'all. Let's get into the NBA Conference Finals. It has officially has been set, y'all. So with these four teams, we have the opportunity for a first-time champion all across the board in terms of our superstars from all four teams, and then also, I think for these franchises as well, I think for the Timberwolves, this would be their first time winning a championship in their franchise history, along with the Indiana Pacers. I believe OKC, they've won one as the Seattle Supersonics, so they're not. But as OKC, this would be their first time actually winning one as well. And then the Knicks, I think, when's the last time the Knicks won a championship? Was it like the early 60s, maybe? Late 60s? The 70s? Yeah, so all four of these teams, they're looking to get to get to the upper echelon of, just winning that NBA championship. 73, y'all. 1973. I think my dad was like 2 years old. So my dad was 2 years old. Mom wasn't even born yet. Who was a part of that 73 championship team?
It's looking like another Walt Frazier or something.
But with that though, like I said, y'all, we have, and then like I said, all these superstars as well. Tyrese Halliburton, you got Shea, you got Anthony Edwards, and also you got Jalen Brunson, whose father, Rick Brunson, also played in the NBA Conference Finals, which was last time in 2000 for them. So, but while Noah looks for that, let's get into this. Let's get into this Wolves versus OKC series, y'all. First off, let's look at the Timberwolves and kind of look to see how they actually got here. Since the last time we talked, I believe they were going into game 5. It was against the Golden State Warriors. But with the Timberwolves, they took care of the Warriors without Steph. In terms of the Legend Slayer and Ant's nickname, we could put an asterisk on this series just because, again, the Warriors only had Steph for one game. So who knows what the outcome, how much would have changed if Steph actually played in this game. So we're going to put a little asterisk on for this series, at least for Ant. And I'm sure Ant himself wishes that Steph was actually fully healthy for this opportunity to actually play him. But for the Timberwolves themselves, this is their back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearance for them. They went last year where they lost in 5 games to Luka and the Mavs. That series, actually, Luka averaged 32 points a game, so it looks like that they had no answers for Luka and that Mavs team, who went on to lose in the NBA Finals to the Boston Celtics. In terms of an X factor in this game, Julius Randle was balling out, y'all. He was balling out. Both him and Ant averaged over 25 points in the series. In that game 5 to close out the series for the Wolves, Julius Randle, he scored 29 points in game 5. Looking at this Timberwolves team, you can just see how gritty of a team they really are, and just seeing how they play on defense and how offensively, both him and Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, they kind of complement each other in a sense on the offensive side of the ball, because if Julius is balling out, it's probably due to Anthony Edwards himself, playing extremely well and playing efficient and, playing mistake-free basketball altogether for both of these players. In terms of Anthony Edwards, he looks to make Timberwolves history in this upcoming series. He needs 9 more steals to become the all-time Wolves leader in playoff steals, surpassing the Wolves legend Kevin Garnett. And also, he needs 35 points to become first in playoff points for the Timberwolves, passing, again, Kevin Garnett. And they look to keep momentum going against OKC. Again, they finished it out in 5 games, so they had a little bit more rest than OKC did. So they have time to get more healthy and have Anthony Edwards be able to rest a little bit more. Because going into this series, y'all, looking at it, all the superstars are probably going to play 35 plus minutes, unless it's a blowout in one game. But all the superstars will be playing 35 plus minutes. You're going to see Julius on the court, not leaving the court. You're going to see Anthony Edwards staying on the court as well. You might got old man Mike Conley. He's going to come in there for a good 20, 25 minutes in this game as well. As for the Warriors, though, I'm honestly glad for the Warriors. I'm glad that they did not try to rush Steph back. in terms of his injury. It was a hamstring for him too, right? Yeah. So he had the hamstring injury, and then we'll go into another player that later on in the series, or a different series, that had a similar injury. But I'm glad they didn't rush Steph back. But I don't think even with him coming back that the Golden State Warriors were going to be able to even, have a fighting chance. Maybe they might extend it to another game or so. But honestly, overall, I didn't see them, coming back down 3-1 with Steph, just because like he probably wouldn't have been fully 100% healthy, regardless if he would have came back. But the reason why they traded for this guy is because of situations like this with Steph. Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler, in these last 2 games, he did not show up. He didn't show up in game 5, and he didn't show up in game 4. He didn't, in terms of like an aggressive approach for both of these games. He shot 4 of 11 in game 5. In 42 minutes, y'all. So he only put up 11 shots in 42 minutes, while off the bench, Jonathan Kuminga, I think he put up like 23 shots. And Jonathan Kuminga was being very, very aggressive as a player. And I think just watching Jonathan Kuminga come off the bench, and just as soon as when Steph got hurt and Jonathan Kuminga came in, he kind of showed a spark. He showed some promise in the player, in himself as a player, and he probably just he kind of just gave himself kind of a bag going into the offseason, because I think is Jonathan Kuminga, I believe he's not, I think he's gonna be a free agent this offseason. I'm not too sure.
He's in a contract year for sure.
So he's in a contract year, so I think next season. Okay, so looking at this, maybe teams might have seen this. Some teams that probably weren't in the playoffs or got eliminated early in the playoffs, looking at this Golden State team and seeing Jonathan Kuminga and seeing him just kind of be on the bench and come off the bench and pop. He probably just made himself a nice little market going into his contract year for sure. And I'm sure, Steve Kerr is going to look at that as well, because I think, now this could be speculation, but I think, I think Steve Kerr and him had like kind of a falling out later, late into the regular season. Like I think in the season finale, I believe they sat Jonathan Kuminga and didn't play him a single game in the last like couple games of the season, and then I don't think he even played in the play-in. So seeing Jonathan Kuminga show off like poise and aggression in the wake of Steph Curry's injury, it definitely like I said, it definitely shows a lot for Jonathan Kuminga, and this is what we were trying to see from Jimmy Butler. Because I think with the Warriors, like in the past, when Steph gets hurt, like you see this Warriors team kind of crumble, and they seem like very stagnant on offense and don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. Don't get me started with Draymond Green. I mean, he's averaging like 6 points a game in that series, so it's like he's not doing nothing. Other than he's getting more fouls than he's scoring points at this point. So just looking at that, I'm just like, like I said, this Warriors team this year, it seemed like they thought Jimmy Butler would show. The Jimmy Butler that played for the Miami Heat, that Jimmy Butler that led them to 2 finals appearances, they were looking for that Jimmy Butler to, pop off in the playoffs with Steph being absent in this game. And again, Jimmy Butler just didn't really show much in these last 2 games. And then game 4, like he was no better in game 4. He shot 5 for 9, y'all. 9 shot attempts up, really, in 34 minutes. I think they got blown out that game though, so I think that's probably they probably just kind of like waved the white flag in a sense. But like I said, 9 shot attempts is not going to cut it in for this team. They need Jimmy Butler to play. Like, I mean, granted, when Jimmy Butler did get traded, they had a really good record when he got traded. I think they went 26-11 or something around that realm. I mean, their defensive rating, I think they were number 1 all across the board since the trade with Jimmy Butler. So the Warriors, he played well in the regular season, but it just seems like in game 4 and game 5 of this semifinal, he just didn't really show up for this team. Now, maybe he was dealing with an injury that we weren't aware of. I don't want to make no speculations, but he just didn't look healthy overall. And so just overall, just seeing him, struggle in game 4 and game 5, this is not the Jimmy Butler we're all used to seeing. We're all used to seeing playoff Jimmy. And I was really looking forward to, maybe seeing him. The lights are on him. Now, maybe they got too bright for him in Golden State, because Golden State, that franchise, has a lot going for them. But overall, though, the downfall of the Warriors was, if Steph gets hurt, who's next up on the list. Who's next up, and it seems every time he gets hurt, no one seems to want to step up. Besides Jonathan Kuminga, but no one just seems to want to step up for this team. I think Pods played pretty well in that game five as well. But overall, though, y'all, it just seemed like it just wasn't. They were no match for the Timberwolves in that series for the Warriors. Now for the next series, though, we have the OKC Thunder. They had a grueling, y'all, back and forth 7-game series with the Nuggets. But in Game 7, though, the Nuggets did not show up. They got beat up on by the Thunder in Game 7. The Thunder won by as many as 32 points. MVP favorite SGA had 35 points in 36 minutes. Super efficient, very super efficient night from SGA. And you know what's crazy about this series? I don't know. What you think? No, I think they waited for the series to be over to pick the MVP, because I don't think the MVP still has not been announced yet. And I'm like, me going live right now, I don't know, Noah, can you check to see if the MVP got announced yet? But the MVP has not been announced yet, in a sense of, between SGA and Jokic, and I think it was between those two players regardless. So maybe the NBA, and I think this is probably the latest it's been since an MVP has been announced. I mean, it usually happens between May 10th and May 15th, around that time, usually. But they still have yet to announce their MVP, and I hope they weren't waiting for this series to end to really lock up their MVP, because again, MVP is a regular season award, not necessarily a not necessarily a playoff award as well. But again, with SGA, he averaged 29.7 points in the entire series. And again, this was a 7-game series, so averaging almost 30 points a game in the 7-game series for SGA, just proves that, he's that guy. He really proves that he probably will win this MVP, not based off of this playoff series, but just overall, just showing in this game, he has what it takes to win the MVP. And then he had an offensive rating of over 130 for OKC as well. As for his MVP counterpart, Nikola Jokic, he only shot 5 of 9 in Game 7. So I'm like, you shooting a tour date in Game 7, that's not gonna cut it, buddy. That is not gonna cut it for Jokic. And I think it was largely due to OKC's bench player, role player Alex Caruso guarding him 80% of the time in Game 7. Now I seen that post on ESPN where the stat where they said he was guarding him 80% of the time, and everyone flooded the comments saying that he was. First of all, Jokic is 6'11" and Alex Caruso's like what, 6'5", 6'6", something around there. So obviously there's a height difference for sure, but I think looking over the comments, and like everyone in the comments are saying he was guarding him 80% of the time, but he was fouling him 100% of the time. And I think, and everyone was calling for Jokic should have been getting way more fouls. I think he only went to the line, I think 11, not 11 times for Jokic. He only went to the line. And so, and like I said, with Alex Caruso guarding him 80% of the time in this game, he was his plus minus off the bench was 40. So he had a plus 40 off the bench, and then I'm sure the refs just kind of wanted them to kind of play this game out. They wanted him. They wanted this Game 7 to kind of just let them, play aggressive as much as they can. I mean, are we really gonna complain about Jokic getting, playing against a 6'5", player like Alex Caruso himself? In that game though, it was just a sloppy night for Denver. I mean, they had 22 turnovers, and like I said, it was just overall, just sloppy basketball play from them. And then they let OKC dominate the paint. They outscored them 64-42 in the paint, and it's just like, you could just kind of see. I think you could kind of just see the fatigue, and I think I mentioned it last time we were here, y'all. That it just seems like the fatigue and Jokic was kind of setting in. They just got off a 7-game series with the Clippers, and then again another 7-game series with the OKC Thunder. So it's like, it's gonna hit. The wear and tear was there. In terms of wear and tear, even Aaron Gordon was dealing with a lot of wear and tear. In game what was it, Game 6? He left the Game 6 early with a hamstring injury himself. His was a grade 2 hamstring injury, and reported by Shams was looking like he wasn't going to play in Game 7. He needed like at least multiple weeks to recover from that hamstring injury. I mean, he played 24 minutes in that game, y'all. So he kind of battled it out. I commend him though. He understood the assignment. He understood what was at stake here. It's game 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a dog, you're a dog. No matter what it is, you're going to go out there and you're going to try to do what's best for the team. And he thought the best option for the team was to, play in this game, because at least for the Nuggets, and I mentioned it before, their bench is not, it doesn't exist. Their bench doesn't exist. They don't play their bench as much. Like I said, the only guy they got is really Russell Westbrook on the bench, and they don't play the rest of the guys as much as Russ. So it's like, if it wasn't Aaron Gordon, I'm pretty sure they were probably going to bring Russ in, and then Russ was going to have to start majority of the game. But just overall, like, I commend him. He got 8 points and 11 rebounds in this game. So he tried his best. Again, I'm surprised he got 11 rebounds, because I think with a hamstring injury, that's not something to play with, y'all. Because so it's like, and again, it just sucks because he did it in a losing effort. Like I said, they got beat down by them. They lost by 32 points. It's probably I think it was one of the largest Game 7 losses in NBA history for sure. And then, and speaking of Game 7s, the Nuggets, they're now 0-5 in road playoff games in Game 7s in franchise history. So it just seems like on the road, Jokic and company cannot get it done in Game 7, and he couldn't close it out. But in terms of this Western Conference Finals game that is finally set, it looks like Game 1 is tonight between the Thunder and Timberwolves. And then this is going to be the first actual Western Conference Finals game featuring two teams that are not from either Texas or California since 1996. And I think those teams in 1996 was the Seattle Supersonics and the Utah Jazz. Correct me if I'm wrong, Noah. But this is kind of interesting to see. So what is it? That's like 29 years since we had a team outside of these two big those are big markets right there. So we have two small market teams against each other in the West, in the Minnesota Timberwolves and in the OKC Thunder. So but let me give y'all my prediction, and I want to hear you guys. First of all, let me hear what you guys think about this Western Conference Final series. Where do you think it's gonna go? I personally think, like, with my prediction here, OKC's been getting this excuse for the last, maybe 2-3 years. Oh, they're too young. They're too inexperienced. This, and that. But at some point, you got to grow up, right? And I feel like OKC has shown they can go to distance with any team. They have shown that the maturity and the poise and just, like, overall just confidence in a team that can really just really, like I said, go to distance with any team. They can play against the best of the best and, not falter by any means. I mean, I think they had the best record in the NBA, right? So it's like, that speaks volume in itself. So I think there was less rest for the Timberwolves as well, y'all. So I think the OKC's been resting like 2-3 days extra than the Timberwolves. But I think give me the Oklahoma City Thunder in 6 games to advance to the NBA Finals. So, I really think this is Shai's year, y'all. This is Shai's year to at least touch the promised land of the NBA Finals. At least we'll see what happens later on down the line and see where I think if they could win the finals or not. But we'll wait until the series is over, obviously, y'all, because honestly, this series can go either way. You got 2 All-Stars and SGA, so it's like, it's firepower right there, y'all. So regardless, we're gonna have a really good series. I can see it going the distance in 7, but again, I think give me OKC in 6. But there's also, I think, let me give you guys. I want to hear you guys what you think the X factors for this game will be for both teams. Let me know down below in the comments. And before I get into that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please keep liking. Please keep subscribing to the channel. Leave your comments down below. Share it with your friends, share it with your grandma, share it with your uncle, share it all around with everyone around the world. And let's just keep getting those subs up. Let's try to reach 100. We're at 25 as of right now. So let's try to get to 100 subscribers. And if we get to 100 subscribers, Noah said he's going to go streaking in downtown San Diego. So if you guys want to see that, keep subscribing. Right, Noah? All right, type shit.
Let's just go on to the next segment.
But so the X factors for both teams, for the Timberwolves, I mean, it's the guy that balled out in the last series. I think it's going to be Julius Randle. Like I said, he complement Ant's game tremendously. So I think I said Nas Reed was the X factor last series. I'm not. I don't think he didn't. He wasn't like beyond great, but obviously with the Timberwolves, like I feel like they're kind of by committee of a team, but also is OKC though. But like I said, I think Julius Randle, if he plays the way he played last series, I can see a lot going in the Timberwolves' favor. And obviously Rudy Gobert, he needs to play lights out on defense as well. And then for OKC, I think like I said, they're by committee as well. Besides SGA and Jalen Williams, and maybe even Chet. Like, I mean, you don't know who, besides SJ, you don't know who else on the board is going to go off for this OKC team. And that's what I really like about this team, and what I like about, honestly, all four of these teams going into this playoffs. Like, you don't know who's really going to, spark for any of these teams besides, their all-star superstars on the team. But for OKC, I believe the reserves like Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace, those guys are going to be X factors for this team, especially Alex Caruso. I don't know who, and then also I think whoever's going to guard is assigned to guard Julius Randle is going to be the X factor. Or what is that? It might be Chet. Do you think it's going to be Chet? No, or maybe Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, that is. One of those two guys will probably be the guy to guard Julius, and I think that's the X factor right there. Whoever can handle him. So like I said, we gonna really see what's gonna happen with these two teams. They play the game one is tonight, and I'm super excited to see where this game goes. And like I said, I think this is gonna probably go to distance, but overall, give me the OKC Thunder in 6 to make it to the NBA Finals. Will this be the first time since what 2012 that they made the finals? Yeah. And that's when they have KD, James Harden, Russ, like three superstars right there. So it could be. I think it'll be good for OKC it'll be good for basketball if OKC makes the NBA Finals for sure. Now let's move on to our next series, y'all, which is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals. We got the Pacers versus the Knicks. In terms of the Pacers, they've been on rest for over a week, y'all. So after handling the Cavs, my boy Tyrese Halliburton, what the hell he Burton, I'm gonna keep saying that, honestly. That that's really catchy. That's really catchy for me. What the hell he Burton. He had 31 points to close out the series against the Cavs, and then the Pacer offense had 6 guys. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Like you don't know who's gonna really spark for any of these teams. But the Pacers really define this idea of just like you don't know who is going to be the X factor, who's going to really just go off for this team. They had 6 guys averaging double-digit points this entire series. And then Miles Turner, their defensive guru guy, he's the leader in blocks in the playoffs right now. He's almost averaging 3 blocks a game. And then in Game 5 to close out, he had 4 blocks himself. And then for Tyrese Halliburton, he had an offensive rating of 130, which that's anything over 110 is just spectacular. So he was very efficient. Tyrese Halliburton, he's one of those guards that just doesn't turn the ball over by any means. And again, he was super efficient in that series. And then also just overall in the playoffs in general for Tyrese Halliburton and this Pacers team. Again, you don't know who's going to really go off for this team. Like I said, I really like him. I really like Miles Turner. And, we'll get into the other guys as well. Now, as for the Knicks, though, the Garden, the Garden, I think for the Knicks, I believe they were doubted all playoff series, the entire postseason, y'all, they were doubted. I think every analyst, besides Stephen A. Smith, who's been, he's on a rampage right now because I know he really, he's a huge Knicks fan himself. So, besides Stephen A. Smith, I think a lot of other analysts and a lot of just NBA critiquers, they really didn't see much in the Knicks. I mean, personally, I think if I can remember, I think I even had Detroit giving them some problems in that first round. Hold on. Again, I thought Detroit were going to give them some type of issues in this first round. But for the New York Knicks, they returned to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000. And on that team, so it's like a full circle moment. So on that Knicks team, Jalen Brunson, his dad, Rick Brunson, actually played for that team. And they played, what would you think? The Indiana Pacers in 2000. So, but they lost that series. back in 2000. And I think the Pacers, who they go on to play? No, I don't remember who they played in 2000, but in that NBA Finals, was it? It was Kobe and the Lakers, right? Yeah. So again, they lost that series, and the Pacers went on to lose to Kobe and the Lakers later on down the line. But again, for the Knicks, I think the Knicks have one of the most. I think New York in general, because how big of a market it is, they have a lot of teams, and they got a lot of enriched history with these teams. Whether it be the Knicks, for basketball, whether it be the Giants or the Jets for football, or what is it, the Rangers for NHL, or the Yankees for baseball. So like, I think New York overall is just a very passionate fan base, and just looking at the New York Knicks and that series against the Celtics, before we get started, hoping for a speedy recovery for Jason Tatum, who tore his Achilles prior to Game 6, unfortunately. And I think as soon as he went down in Game 5, I think we all kind of seen, just see him going to the ground, like it was non-contact, and just seeing him squirm around on the ground as well. Like you definitely could see, just like it did not look good by any means, y'all. So, and he's probably gonna be, it's sad to see superstars like him go down in the playoffs. Again, we had Steph go down. It's like these guys are like key guys for these teams, and like once they go down, it just seems like everything kind of just blows up. Because I think in Game 6, Jaylen Brown, he fouled out in that game. So I think he still had 24 points or something. I could be wrong. But in general, just, the Knicks just seem to be moving different that series. So I don't even think Tatum would even be enough for them. They could have probably extended it another game, but I just seen the Knicks just were too much. There's too much firepower from the Knicks. And I think this is honestly great for basketball in terms of just the New York Knicks advancing to the Eastern Conference Final. All starters for the Knicks, they averaged well over 13 points in this game. Well, hell, even Mitchell Robinson, he sort of got his act together right at the free throw line. I think he still was 14 of 31 from the free throw line, but still, he was knocking down when it mattered most for those shots. I mean, Boston had 3 guys averaging over 20 points, which is kind of, maybe a cause for concern for the New York Knicks coming into this next series. I think, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, they all had over 20 points in this game. So that may be a cause for concern again for this Knicks team that's going up against a Pacers team that just plays by committee. And like I said, whoever, kind of just whoever's going off will get majority of the minutes or whatever. So it's like I said. But let's go into my prediction of the New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. But before then, I want you guys to let me know down below who you believe will come out on top in this series for the Knicks versus Pacers. Now, if we look at this, let's look at both of these teams. And I think these are polar opposite teams, I feel like. In a sense, yes, it is by committee. I feel like besides Jalen Brunson, and then obviously Cat as well, but it's kind of by committee for them. So who knows? OG could probably, pop off this series, whoever. And also for the Pacers, they're solely by committee. They play 8 guys. They play 8, 9 guys regardless. So it's you have a grinded out offense in the New York Knicks that really can just kind of, slow the game down, really, slow any type of tempo down against a team that they could probably, like I said, that they could be the kryptonite for this fast paced, bless you.
Thank you.
They could be a fast paced, they run up down the court team in terms of the Pacers. So it's you got polar opposite. One of these, something's gonna give, y'all, because opposites attract. So or is it opposite don't attract? I don't fucking remember. But regardless, one of these guys one of these teams, something's gonna give. In terms of the Knicks, though, in the clutch or in the fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson has 102 points in his first 10 postseason games in NBA playoff history. Now, that's the most since Kobe had 100 in 2001, in 2003, and then most recently when Curry had 99 in 2023, along with Kobe again in 2008. So that kind of speaks volume on Kobe. I'm pretty sure didn't Kobe win? So I think all those years didn't Kobe win the NBA Finals? I think he won it in 2000. Well, technically, what was it? It was 2000, 2001, right, for Kobe, and then I think he won it in 08, right, Noah? Or I could be wrong, but 09, 010. Okay, well, so yeah. It's close enough. Well, a little bit off, but still, kind of just speak volume on Kobe. Just he was a very clutch in the fourth quarter for him. So, but in terms of this series, I think it really will go the distance. But after just I've been doubting the Knicks. I think every series, and I think it's time for me to shut the hell up. Like I said, I like Tyrese Halliburton. I like him a lot. But I think even Stephen A. Smith said it himself. He said Jalen Brunson is a superstar, and he believes Tyrese Halliburton really isn't a superstar. Like, he can get things done, but he doesn't carry his role for the Pacers is, I feel like, Stephen A. feels, is less than Jalen Brunson's role for the New York Knicks. So I think I got the Knicks going the distance here, and I think I got them winning in 7 games. And man, New York's gonna go insane if they make the finals. So that's like I said, that's just gonna be good for basketball. So now so I have some X factors here, y'all, and I want you guys to let me know down below who you guys believe are going to be the X factors for this upcoming series. The game 1 is tomorrow for the Pacers and Knicks. The Pacers got scores all on the court, like I said. But I think Andrew Nembhard. Sorry, I keep fucking up his name. Andrew Nembhard. He's my X factor for the Pacers. He's been getting tough buckets all postseasons, and he'll need to do so against a gritty and opportunistic Knicks defense. For Andrew. So I really can see him being the X factor for them. So if he plays well, I think this will really help lift the Indiana Pacers for sure. And then for the Knicks, on a defensive mindset, I can see Mikal Bridges once again being an issue, presumably against Tyrese Halliburton. I believe if he's gonna guard Tyrese Halliburton, or they could probably put both him and Jalen Brunson. They play pretty well defensively. I mean, overall, this Knicks team, they're built on that defense for sure. I think overall, though, the Knicks winning the turnover battle early will be an X factor. I think they need to make Tyrese Halliburton very, very uncomfortable early on in this series, because he rarely turns the ball over. You know what I'm saying? As a pure passer himself, they need to clog up those passing lanes for the New York Knicks. And like I said, he rarely turns the ball over. So I think with this series, though, y'all, I think we really need to. I like the Knicks here. I truly like the Knicks here in this series, And then basically that just rounds out into my NBA Finals prediction. I believe it's going to be OKC versus the Knicks. I don't remember. Oh yeah. My NBA Finals prediction before the postseason even started, I believe it was. I think I said I got the Lakers and the Celtics. So yeah, overall, y'all, I think I need to stop making predictions. I think I'm cursing teams or whatever. I've been wrong on almost every single prediction in terms of teams and who's gonna play who. So it's I kind of need to take a step back and maybe reevaluate myself in terms of my predictions. So, but like I said, my NBA Finals prediction is gonna be OKC versus Knicks. If that does arise, and I'll go more into depth of how long, who wins and then how many games. But for now, that's just my prediction for right now. Let's just hope I get something right here. So, like I said, y'all, OKC versus Knicks in the NBA Finals.